welcome back. I'm here with Ed Latimore. Ed, the way that I can describe you is stoic philosopher, boxer, author, influencer, and chess player. Did I miss anything?
um, yeah, that works pretty well. I mean, I got I fashion myself as an amateur scientist of sorts, but nothing serious. Just my degree. That's
Mathematician. You were putting a lot of
yeah,
stuff on podcasts. I heard through mathematical thought processes, right?
yeah. That sounds about right. I tried to the way my life has turned out. It wasn't completely intentional, but I always envisioned myself as someone capable of thinking in multiple domains. I don't think I'm particularly strong in one or the other, but I know I'm better. I know like I'm a better mathematician than like 99% of the population, and the other ones were my classmates. And I know
Right.
that I'm a better athlete than like 97% of the population, and the other 3% are like people who get paid to be athletic and stuff like that. And I think I'm a pretty good orator and writer. So I'm just always trying to push where I decide to put my time, really develop and become a force if I can.
So we've spoken a little bit about this, but it was a while ago on the phone when you and I chatted. So the book that I'm coming out with, right, is called The Obvious Choice, and lesson number two is algorithms change, humans don't. And one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you here and also feature you here and feature all the smart stuff that you're doing is near the end of that, I basically talk about how to. It was originally written as compete or beat computers, but I don't think that that's the right language. It's thrive in an age of computing, I think is the language that I'm going to use. But the idea is the intersection of a whole bunch of disciplines or lines of thinking is where the real value is. Anything that can be taught easily, even mathematics,
Yeah.
it's a straightforward like way to teach something, which means it can be taught to a computer. What you can't teach to a computer are all of these different disciplines congregating in ways that you could never imagine or measure in any way. And I think you are one of the best, if not the best, uh, examples of that. And you've had tremendous success online. And I want to talk about your business and stuff. But first, there's a quote that I came across. This was a long time ago in your life. This is before your child that you just had, and any of your books and stuff like that. Somebody said to you, "What have you done for the past 4 years?" Do you remember what that was about?
Yeah, that's the quote that spurred me into boxing. That's what made me, I was how I would have been 22-ish, 22, 23, and I had already failed out of college the first time I went, and I had a little bit of a sour grapes about the whole college system, and not just, but it wasn't just sour grapes. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of that system that is problematic in my opinion. But
Mm-hmm.
what I had started to do was really just rally against it and talk about how pointless it was. And part of this was to assuage my ego, but the other part was a bit of reality. And one of the people who happened to hear me say this all the time was the mother of the girl I was dating, who is a college professor, who is not
Okay.
going to be the most receptive audience to such talk. But she tolerated it. That she tolerated it way longer than I give her credit for.
Right.
But one day she snapped and she said, all right, let's pretend you're right and college is pointless. Why don't you show me what you've done with your life for the past 4 years other than show up and eat my food? And then she threw me out. And that, she was right, first of all, because when I looked at my life, I had just been working at Starbucks and I had actually put on weight and it was not a good place. I had started drinking again by this point. I took a brief break on sobriety, then not like the long one that'll be 10 years this December, but it was much briefer. And my life really was going nowhere. I said to myself, I'm like, hey, if I die today, like, what are people gonna say? Like, what? How will they remember me? What will be etched in stone somewhere that I've done? and
Right.
there was nothing and nothing good. I thought so. I said, let me go put some sweat equity in somewhere, and I had two choices really because I didn't have the money to go back to school, and I didn't think I could do sales or anything like that. I know when I tell this story, a lot of people are going to hear it through the lens of 2023, 2024 whenever they listen to this, and they'll go, "Oh, there are all kinds of things you could have done online." And I'm like, "You guys don't understand, man. This internet we
No.
have today, it's not. It's the difference between." The internet we had in 20 in 2006 and no internet. Like it's that different.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think of a good like comparison, and that's pretty accurate. Like we didn't have, for example, like every phone has a camera now. Like if your phone had, I don't even think they had cameras yet, but if they did, it was a high end feature.
What year was this? About what year was this?
Let me see. I graduated 2006. It would have been
This would have been
2006,
2006.
2007.
So I
Yeah.
had a phone in 2006. I was 1 year out from graduating university 2006. I had a phone. It had that T9. Remember?
Right,
Each
with the
number
predictive
had
text.
click, 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 click. And I
Yep.
had a phone, and I mean, it was the jankiest thing in the world. But by 2008, 2009, I was a personal trainer. I was filming videos for YouTube.
Yeah.
Shit, imagine if I kept up with that, right? But I was
What
filming videos for YouTube.
a.
And I had a little like it was the most expensive thing I'd ever bought in my life. It was like $230. I bought a little camera.
Yeah,
And
it's
I was
a
filming
it's just a
myself.
different world. uh but yeah, so what I decided to do, I was like, I'm gonna either go join the army or box. And in the army we had just invaded Iraq, so that just didn't. I didn't love my country. Like I don't have love for it like that. I mean, it's a great place to live, whatever. But I won't take a random bullet in the desert.
Right.
Not unless I absolutely have to. So I decided to go found a boxing gym, and I started to box. And I chose boxing because, as you said, this was right when YouTube came out, and there were fights you could watch on YouTube. And I said that looks like
Oh.
something I could do, and it wasn't for money because you don't get any money when you as an amateur. There's no money, and even when you're pro, there's no money. But what I didn't want to just be a dude who went to work and drank and had no other ambitions or developments in his life. And I think about that decision now, like as it comes out of my mouth,
Yeah.
I'm hearing that, and I try to imagine sometimes what my life would be like if I never did this. Like there are certain points that are watershed moments where, you can imagine a slight variation if you've done other things different. But
Yep.
this event, there are certain events where you're like, I don't know, and it's a choice, not like an obligation. You can go left or you can go right. You're like, I don't know how it would have turned out, and I think about how boxing directly and indirectly set me up for so much that it's probably the most important decision I made in my life. And there are a few other events that are like up there that outfluence. Wow, I don't even know if that's a word. That
That is.
influenced uh, that influenced the way my life turned out, and those are significant. But those are really a matter of chance. I didn't consciously
Yeah.
curate it.
I think it's underspoken just how important a physical practice is. Both, I mean, in terms of just energizing the mind. I always say it's like you got to exhaust the body to energize the mind, but
Yeah.
also just to discipline oneself. And it sounds like that's what you needed at that time. It sounds like your ex girlfriend's mother really gave you that kick in the ass
Well,
that
and
you
you
needed
know
to
what's
kind of discipline
funny?
yourself,
She
right?
we yeah she really did. I send her clips of whenever I mention this story
Hmm.
because it I consider it was the first time in my life someone had like checked. Like I mean I had like my mom beat me, but like there was no lessons. It was largely cathartic and out of anger or whatever. Um, but this is the first time someone like really checked me on my nonsense. And
Yeah.
and the last time I saw her, like because she stayed in my life. It's actually funny. I don't talk to her daughter whatsoever. But
Just talk to him, mom.
yeah,
That's
and
great.
she actually when my mom died in 2021, at the end of 2021, she actually reached out and we were talking,
Mm.
and I stopped over her house, and she said something cool related to my life. Now she goes, you and Anna, my wife, she goes, whenever you guys decide to have kids, you have to understand something. You're never going to be any more ready. Like you got everything in your life squared away. You're never going to be any more ready. The only thing now you can do is just like jump in. Like you're as prepared as you can be. And it's true. And she sent me a blanket when my son was born and all.
Oh.
Because, the first person and a really big, like just huge. If I hadn't done that, I mean, maybe I would have stumbled into a boxing gym at some point, but it's hard to say.
So you boxed for a long time. When did you ended up joining the military as
Yeah,
well?
I did actually. I joined the National Guard. I ended up doing that.
So, but you were writing at the same time. How did your posts on your website get published when you were in the barracks?
I had so I had a friend back home. I would handwrite letters and send them, and then she would log in. She had my credentials, and then post everything up for you. And I was so dedicated to the
Let's
writing.
pause on that for a second because you glossed over that like it's nothing. You were writing
Uh,
handwritten physical letters in the barracks in the National Guard for your
Yeah, yeah,
mom.
yeah. And when you join the National Guard, you go to the same basic as everyone else in the army. Like everyone is all grouped together, and then it's only after your AIT or your training for your all these acronyms in the military, training for your job in the army, that you ship off to your unit or back home or wherever you're gonna go. So but at night during basic, that's like the only time you have to write, or and sometimes on Sundays, because Sundays is a day they designate in the military for people who have any faith. So I like I don't know how it works. No, I do know how it works. Yeah, that's you go to church and there's like barracks cleanup and all that, but like as far as official like military business, they tend to at least domestically, Sunday is not a thing. So that's when I write at night. I would write right before lights out,
And what were you
or I
writing
would.
about?
I wrote a post about. I actually don't remember most of what I wrote, but I remember one in particular
Hmm.
about how. So to get through basic training and to be a full fledged soldier in the military, you have to be able to shoot. And the way they assess your shooting ability is you go to a range, there's 40 targets, they pop up at 100, 200, and 300 yards, and you got to pop them off. Uh, I was not a great shot. And here's the thing: if you don't pass shooting, you start basic training all over again.
Okay.
And I can't think of anything that would be worse, like than because most of basic training is more or less put one foot in front of the other, and eventually you'll get there. It's like as long as you don't like get injured, nothing else is really a skill task.
It
Don't
sounds
don't
like
get
it's
injured.
mental. It's
Yeah,
it's it's it's
Ex-
it's breaking you and disciplining you and
yeah, and now there's a little bit of an exception. I went in the middle of my professional career, so I was in great shape. But like, I guess if you can't run 2 miles or do 50 or not 50, it's like a minimum based on your age and based on your age actually slightly weight. Uh, so I put that in the one foot in front of the other category. I was trying to break the run record actually, and I wasn't worried about not completing it,
right.
but the shooting though, that's a skill. You can't just put one from the other. You get 3 tries on shooting day to qualify. I failed all 3. I was like, oh shit, man! Like this is because people are coming out. I got a plan in motion. That's why I enlisted, and that plan was time dependent. It was a big deal. and I got one more try because there was extra ammo left over, and I had good behavior. They didn't like tr- cast me off or anything, and it was hot as hell that day. I did basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And I know you're in Canada, but it was that's a hot part
That's
of the country in the summer.
hot swamp, is what that is.
Yeah, and so it's like 95. I looked it up. It was 97 degrees that day.
Yeah.
I eventually looked up probably like 60%, 70% humidity. And I went out there my fourth try and I got it. I got 23 out of 40. That's which is what you need to pass. I let out a sigh of relief like no other. And later we found out it's because it's funny. They got these age restrictions on the military. And my first thought, me being a guy who's in shape, was like, that's silly. There are some things you can't control. Turns out I found out, you saw at the beginning of this show, I took my glasses off. I'm not like age related nearsighted. That makes a big difference when you're trying to and with a scope. And I've had my glasses. I got them. Man, I pretty much. I definitely needed them in the when I went through basic training because I remember when I got my glasses. But I think I was 30 when I got them. So
Okay, so what was the article about? So the article was about passing the shooting test.
yeah, yeah. Oh, right. So I wrote that post. Yeah, about passing the test and everything that went into it, and like why you have to stay on course and stay disciplined and focused, and really choose a goal. And well, you have to choose a goal because if you don't choose a goal, you some good things might happen, but a lot more probably will if you are aiming to make them happen.
What I like about what you did when I came across that story, where you were writing in a notebook and you were mailing it to your friend, and she, you said it was a woman, right? She was posting it
Yeah.
for you on the blog. There's two things. One is there's finality in what you were writing. When you write something, most of what how people write these days, or most of what people do for work these days, is digital. There's no finality in it, and as a result, they're never forced to be particularly good. They're never that idea of, well, I mean, think about it. Like, you're a marketing guy. Think about how good marketers and advertisers had to be in the 50s and the 60s. Like, call it like the
Oh, right,
Mac.
because not only did now not only is it there's no finality, but the
There's no cost.
the time to market is so fast, and right there's no cost of really anything, time or anything. It's yeah, you get a lot more leeway to
Mm-hmm.
make mistakes. You know what's funny? As I just think about this as a slight rift, this divergence from, or I guess, well, this divergence from excellence that you see in the digital realm where things are, they're not final, they're fast and they're
Yeah.
cheap. It is the exact opposite, I think, in the physical realm in sports. uh in convergence, because now we we have so many, we just know so much more about
Mm-hmm.
nutrition and science. Like the average running back in like the 70s was was a wide receiver size today, and
Yeah.
today a running back uh could have played on the line, even in the freaking in the 80s. And so and in boxing you see these guys. I wrote this article about why I quit boxing with only one loss, and one of the points I've made was that if you look at up until 1990, all with the notable exception of Muhammad Ali, but he was lanky. All the heavyweight champions they were under 6'2". It's not until you get into the 90s where you get Lennox Lewis and Vladimir Klitschko and Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. These guys, because it's just these big humans that just keep showing up because there's
Just
no limit.
monsters. Just monsters. Well, and I heard you talk about, boxing for you, it was very much a sport. You didn't hate the other
Yeah.
guy. It was a sport. It was a game that you were playing. And, I wanted to ask you about getting punched in the face. I've heard you talk about it. but it wasn't. I mean, you get punched in the face by one of those guys.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's
Not.
not like getting punched.
It's
You
totally
know,
different.
I look at a lot of the videos online when they show people fighting, and I'm always like, think. I have two thoughts. I'm like, if you knew what you was doing, you could really hurt this guy. And the other thing is like, I'm really happy you don't know what you're doing. But if you do know what you're doing, here's what I found. I saw one video where there was these two chicks fighting.
Okay.
Uh, and it was clear that the one girl was trained. You could tell by the way she moved and balanced and threw the punches, and she knocked the girl down.
Hmm.
Here's what happens when you train. You understand what you're capable of doing because this girl was down and she could have soccer kicked her and ended the fight.
Oh,
She
this was
told her to
MMA.
get back. It was just a fight on the street,
Oh,
and
oh, oh, oh! I see. Okay.
she told her to get back up. She did to finish on the feet, and she was winning the fight. It's not like it was a big deal, but yeah, when you get hit by someone that's trained, it's the average people don't realize the difference. Like
Yeah.
I will unless I have to save someone. And now that group of people I gotta save is real small. It's my wife and my kid because I'm not because look I'll go to jail. Like if I'm wrong but it saves my son, I'll do that time, right? I'll go to jail. I'm not going to do that time for a stranger. That's
Yeah.
not happening because I know how to hit you. I can knock out men who are trained expecting it. You're not trained and you're not expecting it. I'll kill you. Hey, if I don't kill you to the ground when you hit the ground, uh,
Right.
your head hitting the ground is going to kill you. So like, it's a big deal.
What did Randy Couture tell you?
Man, when we were out there in California, so I got recruited to this program in California, uh, where their mission was to take former Division I athletes and turn them to into heavyweight prospects. I ideally get one to the Olympics that year. And I'm not a former Division I athlete. In fact, on their application on their site, I wasn't tall enough, big enough. I was too old. But I beat their best guy, Dominic Brazil, who ended up going on to represent us in the 2012 London Olympics. So they were successful in that regard. But as we were getting ready for the next set of Olympic trials, because that year there was a little bit of nonsense going on, they had Randy Couture come out and speak to us, and one of the things that really stuck with me, he said a bunch of stuff, right? But what stuck with me is he said, if the worst thing that happens in your life is that you lose a fight, then your life is going pretty good. And what he was saying is that this fight thing is fun and it can pay, and but you get your identity and your ego wrapped up in it, so that when you lose, you feel like you've lost so much. And the reality is, the worst thing that happened is you lost a fight,
Yeah.
and there's so much like nothing else changed about your life. Now, I mean, hopefully you're not like permanently injured or anything, but his point was to keep everything in perspective.
And I think that I mean, as you say that, and when you were talking about fighting and getting hit and everything, I mean, I hope that everybody listening here understands that. Yeah, obviously you were a fighter, so you are talking about fighting, but you're not just talking about fighting, are you? I mean, what Randy Couture told you is such fantastic advice for anybody who is starting something that they think is scary, that at this point in their life seems to be the most important thing in the world to them.
Yeah,
And I think what we don't understand about starting stuff is that when we start things, it seems really important, but we have to understand that we could actually do all of everything right and it still might not work out. I mean, you could have a 60-70% odds of something working. Phenomenal odds. Better odds than really often ever exist in anything. Invert that 3 out of 10 times, it's still not going to work. You got
yeah,
to get
you
your
know
ass up and
what?
do it again.
The best fighters in the world have a 32% connect rate. You're probably going into the Hall of Fame in baseball if you have
Yep.
a batting average higher than 35%. Like
Did you see
it's
what Deion
not.
Sanders said last week?
Now what did he say?
they asked him. They're just like, all right, so you played football, you played baseball. What's the harder sport? He goes, hitting that damn baseball, man. he's like, ain't no other place where you can do something 3 out of 10 times and make it to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That it's when we get tied up in the outcome of things, we forget that the outcome is largely out of our control. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to accept, but it's true. Like you said, very few things are deterministic. Like if I go and breathe water, I'm going to drown. That's deterministic. But I don't think there's any good thing that's deterministic. Like where I do this, I will definitely get that outcome. Only the bad stuff is deterministic. So you shift into a probabilistic model and mental model. And what you do in probabilities is you understand that uh, the longer you do something, the more likely it is that you'll end up with a favorable outcome because time's on your side. This is how casinos work. Casinos, they got a small edge. The casino doesn't need you to stay there. Here's what they hate. They hate if you win and leave.
Yeah.
They hate it a little less if you lose and leave. But they can't stand it when you come once and never come again. They need you to keep your money in play because they know that the longer you sit there, the more their edge, because they have an edge, the house always has an edge, otherwise it wouldn't last, adds up. That's how we have to think about probabilities. We have to think about it as, all right, if I do this, this, and this enough times, long enough, good things should happen. And this is hard because it one, it requires patience, but two, it's an act of faith in the purest sense of the word. You don't know. Not only do you not know, but you've seen other people potentially do it and not have the same result because
Right.
they gave up or whatever.
Or
But
it
you
worked
have
fast
to,
for them and seemed easy because they got
yeah.
lucky.
Which is like, this social media thing is probably one of the coolest places to observe this. Because I'm a beginner again on LinkedIn as a platform.
Okay.
And kind of compare that to my Twitter following. And Twitter following is over 200,000. LinkedIn, a lot less. But I know it just takes it's overtime, 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 overtime. So I was thinking, I was like, oh man, I'm growing by 150 people a day on LinkedIn, which is not like nearly enough to be at 200,000 anytime soon. But I'm not thinking of it that way because I understand that growth didn't happen linearly. It was almost exponential, and it's
Yeah.
leveled out. But the more you grow, the more you get exposed to people, the more interviews and stuff you do, things like that. But that's the long game. And look, this is a slight tangent, but one of the most annoying things I've seen is this new breed of, like, we'll call them like the talentless marketer. I don't, and what I mean by that is they understand marketing. It's not that their talent, their lack of talent is in the marketing area. Their lack of talent is in anything else. So they give
Right.
advice. I got a buddy. He posted building us. If you're not using social media to build an email list, it's a waste of time. And I'm like, or he didn't say it that way because there's a way to interpret that. It was probably closer to any other use for social media, and the build your email list is a waste of time. And I don't like to, because I've done business with him before. I messaged him and I was like, dude, that's really bad advice. It's because the connections you make. I can't tell you how many. In fact, all of my speaking gigs have come inbound from people reaching out to me. The authority, if you want to sell something, you can, and it's a quick way to generate cash flow. I just kept going on all these lists, and then I realized as I was typing it what the issue was. The issue in in understanding and grasping this idea is because it's not because it takes so long. When you do
Right.
anything when you achieve anything, you realize that time and consistency are the biggest factors. And when you don't, everything, if it's not quick, it doesn't work. And I think there's a whole new breed of the marketers, most of them under 35, a lot of them
Under
under 30,
35. Most of them under
under
25.
30, really. Yeah,
About
25
35.
years. Yeah,
It's true
is
though.
that they haven't done anything, so
It's
they
true
don't
though.
know.
I mean, if all you have to sell, if the only thing that you can sell is a course that you put together or something that you hack together on how to build up an audience the exact way that you built up your audience, you might make enough money on that to make a
Yeah,
meaningful difference in your life, but you have no, what are you going to do tomorrow? Like I'm looking for the right,
right.
there's no, I always look in business, I always build multiple redundancies in everything that I do. From an engineering standpoint, like you just have to have redundancies. You have to have backups on backups on backups because you're never going to predict when something goes wrong. And what happens often with these people is, well, something changes and their system or their model doesn't work anymore or whatever. And all of a sudden now you got nothing. Nothing, which is why I stress when I wanted to start building up my social media again. All right, we're talking like a year and a half ago now, 2 years ago now. And I said to one of my guys who was working with me at the time, I was like, our only goal is to have a conversation with 15 people a day on Instagram. I'm like, that's it. Right? Because if we talk to 15 people a day, that's 15 people who have been probably given more attention by me to them than anybody else that they've ever listened to on the internet about anything ever. Literally by just asking how they're doing and clicking on their profile once using their first name,
Yeah,
looking at something they're interested in and trying to identify a commonality. A commonality is literally like, oh, you're from Uruguay. I visited there once. like that's the commonality. 15 people a day is 5,475 people a year.
yeah, and look, here's the crazy part. The algorithm, people try and play to the algorithm, right? Play to the algorithm, right? Play to the algorithm. But the algorithm is like, okay, so artificial intelligence in the purest sense of the word doesn't exist yet. But it's
Not
damn
sentient
close.
artificial intelligence,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not something. It's not conscious. It's not aware of itself, without programming. Um, but I'll tell you what, it really learns. My experience has been all algorithms converge because they're all trying to do the same thing. Whether it's on YouTube, TikTok,
Yep.
Twitter, Instagram, they're all trying to
Oh, they've all
monopolize your
become the same
time.
thing.
Yeah,
They've
and
all
keep you
become the same thing. It's
engaged.
fascinating. It's like, all right, we're going to make this video. This actually works on Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, TikToks, YouTube Shorts, and it works pretty good on LinkedIn and Twitter as well.
Right. It's nuts. Different audiences, but it's nuts. But one of the things it rewards, it's simple like network theory.
Yeah.
It rewards you like building weak ties. You don't want to just be something that's observed. You want to put yourself in the center of the network. Your information not only travels faster, but like you said, there's redundancies. This path doesn't is blocked off. This guy doesn't log on that day or gets his account suspended. So now it goes through to another path and interacts with another person in the network who's almost as connected. These redundancies I never thought. I actually wrote that down while we were talking redundancies. It's just social media because I never thought of it that way, but it fits so well with how I think about the rest of social media, which is
So,
heavy emphasis on the social,
yes,
not so much on the media. Like the media will take care of itself.
the media will take care of itself. So, the divide that I make in the book is you can try to become famous on the internet, or you can leverage media to build a business. And both are fine, but they are completely different games that you're playing. And they're
Yes.
different games with different rules of engagement, time horizons, odds of success. And both are good games to play. The problem is when you conflate the two games, is when you play by the rules of one and you desire the rewards of the other. It's what you see often are people who just need 5 more clients, man, or 10 more customers, or they're a local business. So who gives a shit whether some dude sipping yerba mate in Positos in Montevideo, is impressed because you pointed at words on space dancing around an idea. And so, there's a difference between
That's funny.
entertaining around an idea. It's true
Yeah.
though, right?
Yeah.
Like $200 is $200 is $200. Doesn't matter where the fuck comes from. It could come from somebody who lives around the block from you. Or it could come from somebody who lives in Punta del Diablo in an off-the-grid eco home, or just across the border from Brazil. What I can tell you is that it's going to be way easier to get that $200 from that person who lives around the corner, and it's going
Right.
to make you more money because you're going to have less fees that you're going to have to pay. So just because you can earn money from people on the internet who live far away doesn't mean you need to. And also, it's inefficient and more difficult for most people who are using social media as goals. Now, the exception is if you're trying to become famous on the internet. Becoming famous on
Yeah.
the internet is the same as trying to become an entertainer. Back in the day, it used to be you'd make the pilgrimage to Hollywood, and you knew what you were signing up for. You knew that a few were going to win huge. In the words of George A. Romero, who did like Night of the Living Dead, he's like,
Yeah, George
if
A.
I
Romero. I actually went to high school with
no way.
what the hell? Who is his partner?
Oh, I don't even know.
Tom Savini.
Okay,
They used to make the horror. They had a big horror exhibit
they
here
were
in Pittsburgh
massive.
because Savini's from Pittsburgh. Yeah.
So one of the things that he said is, if I fail, they write me off as another statistic. But if I win, they fly me out to Hollywood and pay me $1 million to fart. Like, that's the difference. So people who went to Hollywood knew, like, yeah, I'm going to wait tables. I'm going to work for free or for very little amounts of money for a very long period of time. If I win, the rewards are massive. If I don't win, I can either keep trying or I can decide to, at one point give up and go home. And I think that there's something very admirable in knowingly signing up for that
Right.
and taking a shot. Right. The problem that I have with what's going on right now is the rules of engagement have not changed. The problem is that there's a lot of people who are playing the wrong game because they don't understand that the rules are no longer clear.
Yeah.
And that's where I see the issues coming in.
Oh man, dude, you said quite a lot. By the way, man, just edit it, keep it. But this is one of my favorite talks because the engagement of you is the host and the idea. I feel like I'm learning quite a lot actually. But what you're saying about the rules being different was one of the things I struggled with initially, really up until probably last year, was making that difference and understanding that because of how I came up on social media,
Yeah.
but my skill set and who I am and what my goals were, I never understood that those two things didn't necessarily mesh. I came up with a lot of the internet marketing bros,
Right.
and
And where are they
so
now?
they're
That's my
we're
question.
not
They're not
right.
around, are they? Like, I know when you came up. I know who some of those people are. They're
And a
either
lot of
not
those
around
guys,
anymore, or
yeah,
they've reinvented themselves 5 times.
because
It's
they've
like
had to.
it's like, yo, you're an expert on AI this week. Last week you were an expert on crypto. The week before that you were an expert on short selling stocks.
And
The week
then
before
drop
that you were an
shipping
expert
back in the
on
day
Forex.
and all that
Like,
stuff.
like your ability to learn is very impressive, sir. But it's just like, that's got to be exhausting.
Yeah, and I'm like, all right, I know exactly what I want to do, but I'm sitting here thinking I can't monetize it, and then like, because that's like the big buzzword, you got to monetize, and to be fair, if you're going to do this full time, it's a lot easier if you have something to make money from.
Sure.
But it wasn't until really over the past 2 or 3 years, especially everything culminated with me getting a book deal,
Yep.
where I was forced to kind of look at what my agent the first email he sent me, what Penguin saw in me,
Mm,
and then what everyone else had seen in me to help me get on all of these shows and podcasts. And
yeah.
I was like, okay, I don't know exactly how much I am in the get famous on internet camp. But what I do know clearly is that the business model and the method for me uh, that won't work or that won't work for me is building a business, because that was never what my kind of goal was. Now I've my attitude has changed a little bit as it continues to modify and learn, modify and upgrade. But the big paradigm shift overall is realizing where my offer and value is. Like I thought about, it wasn't until I like looked at how much money I made, not even promoting this, just taking it as it comes, inbound for speaking because people wanted to hear my story, how I talked about, and
Yeah, talk to me
inbound
about
for
how you make your
coaching.
money. I want to get into your revenue breakdown.
So a lot of it over the past year has been any type of, I just spoke, and and then affiliate sponsorships for the newsletter
Okay.
and the advance from our book. I actually took a big step back and said, I don't want, like you've been following me for a while, and my big flagship, I mean, $1 million made from it, was my Twitter course.
Mm-hmm.
And that was good. So when I decided to step away from that, it was a bit of a it was a bit for me to go. But I looked long term and I said, I enjoy writing.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy, but my gift where I'm going to really make an impact, where I can't be competed with, uh, there. And I actually not I started coaching at a gym because I enjoy working with people. I have a few guys that I take on to to work with on their issues, addiction, sobriety, and relationship stuff. $2,000 a month for a call a week. It's not a big deal, but it's a happy, like I'm excited. you know,
Here's why I
I
like
don't
what
feel
you're
it.
doing.
It
Here's why I
doesn't
like what
feel
you're doing.
inauthentic to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't feel
That's true.
salesy. Like the community I'm releasing. I have no idea how this community is going to do, right? But what I do know is that I will get to talk about and teach the things that I want to teach, the things that every other that people with platforms and outlets and resources have gone, that's the guy we want to invest in. Like ConvertKit. I didn't realize even how big of a deal ConvertKit has really become. Uh, but they sent out 2 years ago. They sent out someone to do a document. First, they just wanted to do
I
an
watched
interview on
it.
my story, right? So looking at that, I'm like, wow, that's awesome. And then this other group starts with us with all these very important people. They come and they want to hear the story and want to talk about it, and it just and I've found where I want to exist and where I want to move forward, and I've been very willing at any point in my development to leave behind what isn't working.
Mm.
That's actually easy. Like it's very easy to go, this isn't making money, let's stop doing it. Like no one's gonna argue with you. Where the argument, I got a little pushback, is like, wait, not only are you giving away the Twitter course, pretty you're gonna just remove it? Like what? Yeah, that's right, because it worked, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do anything close to it anymore. Like uh, I want I want what I'm doing now. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so the income breakdown this year has been really really is it's shifted to coaching, speaking. That has been coaching, speaking, and then because I'm not thinking about selling products,
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to pursue sponsorship as well, and that was a big was pretty big. I think sponsorship dollars, yeah, about for my email list, about the 3 grand a month ish. On top of that, so look, I've never like claimed to be this crazy millionaire dude. I mean, like or anything like that. What I will claim is like clear, nice 6-figure living being myself, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
moving a lot closer, even more closer to that than when we first met, especially this year, and then moving in the next year is as I continue to learn, because now I'm learning a whole new tool set and skill set.
Right.
Uh, and even as algorithms change, I haven't changed. People haven't changed. The story and the power of it hasn't changed
Humans don't
because
change.
humans don't change, right?
If you understand
How
why humans use social media, if you understand why humans use algorithms, you're 98% of the way there.
Yeah, like your book Vironomics is back on my bookshelf. Uh, yeah, spot on stuff, man. Like this is a realization you made that I think a lot of people, haven't. And let me tell you something that's really cool. So how I started with Twitter. One of my sources of income was just like pay retweets and promotion. Good
Okay.
money, by the way. Like it's amazing what people will pay for. And then I had a shift in my thinking, and I was just like, there are so many people I could be connecting with that I'm probably not, and I'm connected. Like it's not like I'm some little account, uh, but I was like, I want to be in these rooms, and I'm not in these rooms. Maybe, just maybe, and so let me do things to the very least remove any reason to not be in these rooms, and so that leads to me making bigger connections with guys like I Dan Go and Tim Denning. I think you're familiar with one of them, or maybe both. But they're help. We all help each other on LinkedIn, and there's nothing like I try to contribute any way I can, right? But I'm a small. These guys have 200,000, 400,000 subscribers or followers on LinkedIn. I 4,000. But
They
like
got there before
the
you. That's all.
yeah, but the exchange of value and all that, I try to do that because because in this space, not the let's sell a course on Twitter space. In this space, the more you elevate people, the more you win because we're not like me and Dan probably have a strong overlap of potential customers, but we're not competitors. So we both win is exposure, growth, and sharing. So it's really nice to be in a place where you're aligned with your peers. I think that when you're all when you're all selling kind of the same thing, yeah, it becomes a
Yeah.
little hard.
Everybody's selling a copywriting course. Everybody's selling a whatever. Well, let me tell you what jumped out to me about that. You talked about just being aligned with your peers. What jumped out to me about what you're saying is how aligned you are with yourself. When we spoke on the phone the first time, I don't know where you were. I was walking in circles around my neighborhood, so I remember that. But we were just geeking out about how about books, about writing in particular, about how both of our career
All right,
trajectories
because
were
you
inconsistent.
let me talk to you about everything with the contract. See, this would have been way back in last September, about a
Yeah,
year
it would have
ago.
been last summer, last fall,
Yeah.
and you know what both of us really want to do is write and write books. And the most dangerous thing, and this jumped out to me when you were saying, I wrote it down right away, was the most dangerous thing that we could possibly do is not the stuff that doesn't work. The most dangerous thing is the thing that works but isn't aligned.
Right. Oh.
And there's this wonky misconception that people feel these days, and I've felt it, and these systems have been engineered to be addictive to make us feel it, that we need to build up this big audience on social media in order to enable us to do dope shit in the real world. And it's completely opposite. You need to do dope shit in the real world, and then you talk about it in a dope way online.
Yes.
But you have to do something first. And why I was so excited to talk to you and bring you in here is you've done the thing. I mean, yes, you can write well. There's a lot of people who can write as well or better than you.
Yeah. Exactly.
The reason, and same as me, right? Like, I mean, I have no qualms about that. I get that. The reason why you've done well, the reason why your messages have been impactful, the reason why these people have reached out to you for interviews. I mean, I searched your name on Spotify to listen to a bunch of podcasts. I was like, yo, this guy has been on all of the big podcasts, like not just a few, like all of them. I listened to
I,
one with Shane Parrish at Knowledge Project way back when, right? Like you were one of his first interviews.
yeah, he flew down from Toronto, interviewed me in the gym, flew back the same day. I said, "That's dope."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I like Shane a lot. Shane and I met at an event, and then we were both jokey story, but we were both in business class on the way back, and so we just hung out for like 2 hours, geeking out about the blogging and content writing and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's one of
So
the
I like
guys,
his
man.
podcast.
Yeah, he's one of the guys I look. There's a
He's
few.
good.
What I was saying earlier, the rooms that I want to be in.
Yeah,
In that room are guys like Shane Parrish, James Clear, uh, Mark Manson, and you know what's funny? Like I have direct lines to all three of them
yeah.
through different channels, though, which is interesting. Not like directly through social media. Met James in person for coffee. Like stuff like
These
that
worlds are
is
small.
yeah, it is. Like
And
so that's the other thing too, man. It's kind of this built-in security blanket
and the
for
people
dealing with
who are
people.
in them respect people who have done shit.
Yeah.
Like I think that theme to me, and so the end. So I spoke a little bit about. I think it's lesson two. This algorithms change, humans don't. Right. Spoken. And the end of it is about. And I don't know whether I'm going to run with this because I like offering more tactical advice, but I don't think that this advice, I don't think that the way to succeed is actually tactical. It's by definition random and unmeasurable and unexplainable. Basically, it is follow your geeky interests, show up at that event, go on that trip, gather such a unmeasurable random array of experiences and talents and skills with no clue how these things are going to come together in some sort of a new way. Because when you do that, you are able to build your own unique viewpoint and way to navigate this new world that we're in that can't ever be I mean, there's nothing that is going to be valuable that is already particularly valuable that can easily be taught to a computer. And a
Yeah.
computer can learn single industry disciplines, can learn single industry thinking. I mean, like you
There's
can
a
teach the thing a postdoc, and any intersection between two industries that is reasonable has already been taught to a computer.
hmm there's a
So there's no value in that.
great book called Range, and I picked it
Yeah,
up. I picked it up on a whim before a cruise actually, and I read it the whole time.
you didn't need to.
And
You owe it.
well, yeah, but one of the things that really stood out to me is the section where he talks about how computers beat humans at chess 12 times out of 10. It ain't
Yeah,
even the strongest human is nothing. Like, but things get really interesting when you pair a human and a computer against a computer
mm, right,
because we analyze the board differently in a way that computers can't.
right.
And so we see things that even the strongest engines don't see. It's so fascinating. I guess there's like a tournament where they do this, and I go, wow, that is exactly how I've tweaked my writing lately, and how I've been able to be more prolific than I should be, because like I'll give the AI a prompt, and it'll spit, and the prompt is my writing,
Mm,
and it'll spit something out. And I'll look at it and go, that's a little awkward to say it that way. And I've got a better example I can think of that you don't even know about because it's not in the archive and not updated yet. And maybe you don't even see the lesson
or
in it that
something
way.
from your life
Yeah.
that you
So
remember. Yeah,
and you want to talk about working well? I am punching way above my weight on LinkedIn for the amount of comments, likes, and shares and all that. And it's driving email subscribers in and is allowing me to just focus on writing good content without pushing them in for an offer or anything like that. Now obviously an offer will be made, but it's very aligned. It's a but the point being that, yeah, whatever I think there's something to really be said about following your curiosity. And if your curiosity takes you into a difficult realm, not changing your curiosity. Like, and I bring that up to say, I was an absolutely terrible math student in high school. I just gave a speech, and I remembered, I was like, oh, that's right. I actually didn't technically graduate. They let me walk, but I didn't graduate. Uh, it took me 3 tries to understand calculus, and by tries I mean in a class, and I failed. But I got it on the fourth try, and like not just kind of got it. I really got it. I was like, oh, all we're doing is arithmetic operations on changing quantities, because you do arithmetic on static quantities, and so we have to invent a new language for that. And that's a direct result of my training in boxing. Like, as weird as that sounds. And I never changed my interest, though. They only got more into the realm of difficulty. I initially was going to be an electrical engineer. Well, I initially was going to school for math, and then I had my experience in the army, and I said, "Oh, I want to be an electrical engineer. That's more math somehow." And then I had my experience taking my classes for electrical engineering, and I said, "Physics." That made I had to work harder, because now it was all math. Like everything in physics is math. You just can't get away from it. And high level math, like there are classes you can't even take until you've done your 3 courses of calculus, and then some abstract, I'm not abstract, linear algebra or ordinary differential equations, because you just can't solve the problems. You can't work on a mechanical system, for example, and model it without a differential equation. And so I had to go from not being strong at math, like not even being like passable at math, to becoming a strong math student so I could pursue my interest. Now, if they had just sat me down and said, "You got to learn this," oh, I mean, that's what happened in high school. Like, all right. But once I had a reason, it became great. You see this a lot of the times with language learners too. Um, they have a very difficult time learning when it's mandatory, and not like, oh, you have options of languages to choose, pick this one, but this is part of graduation. You need to do this, and they rather do other things. But if you let a person follow their own interest, and just stumble into it, I think what you end up unleashing, you unleash real motivation, and that's powerful. Like the kind of thing, where you stay up all night
Yep.
because you want to, working on the problem. You can't, there ain't no amount of forget dedication and motivation, obsession, but like regular, you just get obsessed about what you're working on naturally. That's overlooked.
Well, Ed, this was a pleasure, man. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for sharing. Really appreciate you. It was good to connect again with you as well.